Hey, Krazy Joe here. MegaPodzilla's Krazy Joe. And I wanted to tell you I saw a movie recently. Movie just opened this week. I got to go see it. It was Office Christmas Party. Jason Bateman, Jennifer Aniston, TJ Miller. I'm going to recommend it. It's a pretty funny movie, and I think it's worth checking out. And I would highly recommend seeing this movie. But it got me thinking about favorite Christmas movies and the Christmas movies we have to watch every year that we love the most. Now, I'm going to talk about Christmas movies, not Christmas TV specials, just movies. Because I can do another video where we'll talk about TV specials. I could do another video where we talk about TV shows. This one's just about movies. So, Office Christmas Party really made me laugh. I think it's one I could see myself revisiting year after year. But what are some of my favorites? Well, if you listened to the last episode of the MegaPodzilla podcast, Bob Trait and I talked about one of my favorite Christmas movies, Gremlins. We saw a screening of it at the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania recently, Bob and I. And if you're not familiar with the Colonial Theater, we talk about it a lot on the MegaPodzilla podcast. It's an awesome theater, and it's actually the theater that was used in the movie The Blob. When the Blob attacks the movie theater, that is the Colonial, and it's still operating to this day in the suburbs of Philadelphia, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania to be exact. And it's a great old theater, and they have classic screenings. And Bob and I went and saw Gremlins not long ago, just a couple weeks ago. It was actually the first Christmas movie I watched this season. And it is probably my favorite Christmas movie. I'd say my favorite movies are the Back to the Future trilogy. I've said that many times. Absolute favorite movies, the Back to the Future trilogy. Gremlins is just a hair under Back to the Future. I would put Gremlins just under Back to the Future. I would put the Star Wars movies just under Back to the Future. It's pretty high on my list of movies altogether, not even just Christmas movies. So that's one I've revisit every year without fail. Another one, and I'm not going to be throwing any curveballs or weird things at you. It's the same movies everyone watches every year. Christmas Vacation. My wife and I were gift wrapping the other day. We watched Christmas Vacation while we were gift wrapping. Now, I gotta say, it is actually the first time I've watched the movie in several years. I haven't been able to revisit that movie because when you have kids around, you kind of got to keep it family friendly. And that movie is just a twinge inappropriate for, well, my stepdaughter's 9. I think that's a movie you probably show her when she's 10 or 13, somewhere in that range. Because some of the stuff in there, it's not like it's a real bad movie or anything, but just a twinge inappropriate, if you know what I mean. So it's actually the first time I've watched that in a couple of years, and I gotta say it was really nice seeing it again because it's a movie that really takes me back to watching movies with my father. He really, really liked that movie. And my brother and I throw quotes from that movie all year round. We throw quotes from that. We can't sit around the table and someone say something about saying grace without like, Grace, she died 30 years ago. It actually drives my 9-year-old stepdaughter crazy because she's never seen the movie. She doesn't know what that's from, and we always say it. She's like, stop it, stop it. So that's kind of fun. Another one of my favorites, actually, this is new. This is new to the list. Some of you may not have seen this because the movie's only a year old. But a really, really, really funny movie came out last year called The Night Before with Seth Rogen, Joey G. Levitt, and Anthony Mackie, the Falcon. And it's really funny. It's really, really funny. And the funny thing is, I didn't appreciate how funny that movie was the first time I saw it. And the reason is because the theater I saw it in it was digital projection, and they got a corrupted digital file, and the movie was in the wrong aspect ratio. Drove me bonkers. I went out and complained. I'm like, This is in the wrong aspect ratio. They're like, we're working on it. We're working on it. Well, about halfway through the movie, maybe, the manager comes in, pulls me aside, gives me a pass for a free movie, and apologizes and says the file's corrupted. They're not going to get it corrected until the next screening because they have to re-download the file. So I'm stuck watching it in this awful format. But they did refund my money for the inconvenience. Well, as soon as I relaxed and dealt with the fact that the movie was going to be in that format, it was what it was, put myself at ease, I was able to enjoy the movie. Up till then, I think I was so uptight about the terrible presentation that it was affecting my enjoyment level. But then I calmed down. I'm like, hey, this is really funny. I started laughing because up till then I wasn't laughing at all. I was too uptight about the aspect ratio being off. That kind of thing drives me nuts, just as my wife. I'm crazy about aspect ratios. As all good film buffs should be. So, I've seen it since twice on home video. Once in the summertime, and I'm a big don't watch movies, Christmas movies in the off season kind of guy. I'm a guy, I believe that because my father used to say if you watch Christmas movies and Christmas shows all year round, Christmas becomes a little less special. Because there's something special about that being the time of year when you can watch that stuff. And if there's nothing to single Christmas out as this special event, the whole thing sort of becomes just a little bit less special. And I believe that. And as a result, I do not watch Christmas movies, will not watch Christmas movies in the off season. But I made an exception this past summer, and while I was on vacation, I watched the night before, mainly because my brother was on vacation with us, and he hadn't seen the movie. And I said, oh, you gotta see this. So we watched it in the off season, and it is so funny, and I'm looking forward to watching it again. So there's 3 recommendations for you right there. Now, we get the usual, there's a million versions of Scrooge, Christmas Carol. What's your favorite? Um, a lot of people say George C. Scott is the best. A lot of people say Alistair Sim is the best, and they're both great. I'm partial to 2 versions myself. The Muppet Christmas Carol, because I am a Muppet fanatic. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm crazy about the Muppets. So the Muppet Christmas Carol holds a special place in my heart. But also the musical Scrooge, starring Albert Finney. Again, this goes back to my father. My father, that was one of his favorite versions, and he used to sing the songs around the house. He was always if you couldn't say thank you to my father, you could never say thank you to my father without him immediately breaking into thank you very much from Scrooge. It was automatic with him. He heard the word thank you, he started singing that song. So as a result, that song has that movie, that version of Scrooge has a very, very special place in my heart. So that Albert Finney Scrooge and the Muppet Christmas Carol, those are my personal 2 favorite Scrooges. And I don't always get to watch both. That's the thing. There's so many good Christmas movies. It's really hard to watch them all because you only have so much time in the day. And I've gone on record as saying it's very difficult to watch movies at home. I find that very, very challenging, especially anything R-rated. Because if it's something a child can't walk in the room and see, I'm probably not going to get to see it. And that brings me to one of my other favorite Christmas movies, Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is not easy to watch around this house because we have a 9-year-old. And also my wife would never watch that. But Silent Night, Deadly Night, if you've never seen it, I find it's a horror movie. It's a horror movie, but I find it hilarious. It's a really cheeseball horror movie. It is goofy. And there's a scene in that movie that cracks me up every time I see it. And there's a musical number with one of the worst Christmas songs you'd ever want to hear in your life, called like the Warm Side of the Door. terrible, terrible song. And it's supposed to be this like emotional scene where they're showing you how well adjusted the main character is and how well he's doing in his job. But then every now and then he'll see a picture of Santa and he'll get horrified by that picture of Santa because he had a bad experience with Santa as a kid. I don't know if you've seen the movie or not. It's not for all tastes. I don't want to recommend that movie to just everyone because you may hate it. If you don't like horror movies, you're probably going to hate it. But it's not at all scary. It's comical. Unintentionally so. I don't think it's supposed to be as funny as it is. But that's one I enjoy watching, and I probably am not going to get to watch. Another is Die Hard. Again, R rated. There's profanity flying around. There's F bombs. Not easy to watch with children, but it's one that I like to watch if I can. This year, uh, when the kids were out, I tried to watch Bad Santa again, and I haven't seen Bad Santa in a number of years, and I didn't find it as funny as I remembered it. So I don't know. Maybe it was if it was the mood I was in, but that is one that I wasn't particularly getting into as much as I have in previous viewings. I remembered it as being very funny, and then I'm watching it again, and I'm like, I'm not really laughing at this. Sometimes mood is everything. Sometimes if you're not in the mood for a movie, that could be the killer. And I don't know what it was, but Bad Santa just wasn't digging it. So, just a couple more I'll throw at you. A couple more favorite Christmas movies. I've mentioned I'm a huge fan of The Muppets. I mentioned Muppet Christmas Carol. Well, there was a made for TV Muppet movie that you can get on DVD, on digital, however you get your movies. But it was made in '02. It's called It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie. I think it's the best Muppet Christmas show, or one of the best Christmas shows. But here's what's really great about It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie. It came out in '02. Now, if you're a Muppet fan, when Jim Henson died in 1990, there was kind of a I don't know if there was a reluctance to use Kermit the Frog because he was so closely associated with Jim, but you'll notice that Kermit the Frog was not the focus of the Muppets anymore. He was always there, but he sort of, in the years after Jim Henson's death, became a supporting character. The same thing happened with all the characters Jim Henson performed and all the characters Richard Hunt performed. And Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, Muppets from Space, next three movies to come out. Gonzo and Rizzo the Rat very much came to prominence as the two main characters of those films, with Kermit and Miss Piggy and everyone playing supporting roles to Rizzo and Gonzo. And like I said, I think it was a real reluctance to use these characters that were so closely associated with Jim Henson and Richard Hunt after their death. But the thing is, those were the main characters, and as much as we may love Rizzo the Rat, and as much as we may love Gonzo, we wanted Kermit and Fozzie and Miss Piggy and Scooter up front and center. So, '02's It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie was sort of like the return of the old school Muppets. It was the first Muppet production since Jim Henson's death where the main Muppets came back to the forefront and were the main characters again. And I really appreciated that. Also, the story was very, very similar if you've seen the 2011 Muppet movie with Jason Segel about them trying to save the Muppet Theater. It's basically an identical plot, except Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie did it first. So that movie is a really, really great movie. It was sort of like a return to form for the Muppets back in '02. And I really love that movie. Try to watch that every year. So I'm going to end it there for movies. I will leave you with this. I know I've talked about my father quite a bit, but the holidays are all about family. And my father is no longer with us, and he is greatly missed. So you think Christmas, it's hard not to think about him. And I'll leave you with one little bit of. I find this amusing. My father hated the movie White Christmas, couldn't stand it. I've never seen the movie. And I don't think I ever want to see the movie because my father hated it so much. It was really one of his least favorite movies that I just kind of feel like by not watching the movie in my own way, I'm kind of honoring him, if you will. But it was always fun to get my dad on a rant about how much he hated White Christmas because he really would go off about how unrealistic the movie was. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Don't these people have families? They have to go to cheer up their old army general, but they leave their families. What about their families? Oh my God, it was so funny getting him going. I loved his rant on this movie. Really entertaining. And I'm happy to say I got him on record on MegaPodzilla. Uh, his rant has been preserved for the ages on one of our old Christmas shows on the podcast, and that makes me very happy. And I may have to go back and dig that up and listen to it because it takes me back. So that's all I got. I will show you one more thing. This is not Christmas related, but when I saw not the night before, when I saw Office Christmas Party, I saw it at a chain called Frank's Theater. And Frank's Theater, I don't know if there's a Frank's Theater near you, but they had this really cool Rogue One popcorn bucket. It's a commemorative popcorn bucket for the movie Rogue One. And Cubs filled with popcorn. I emptied it, of course. But I thought it was really cool. Thought it was a neat little thing. So if you have a Frank's Theater in your area and you're a Star Wars fan, go check it out. Maybe you want to pick up one of those buckets. I saw it and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm a sucker for things like that, though. And I got to be careful because I haven't seen Rogue One yet. I'm seeing it Friday. I have my tickets. But I haven't seen the movie. It could be a terrible movie, and I just bought a piece of memorabilia for it. But I don't know. I'm a sucker. What can I say? I love Star Wars. Takes me back to when I was a kid. So that's all for this time. I'm going to come back. I'm going to talk about favorite Christmas TV specials, probably on my next video. And while we're on the topic of Christmas TV specials, this is really special. On the next MegaPodzilla podcast, which will be coming out in the next couple weeks, we've scaled it back to once a month until the summertime. But on the next podcast, we're going to be talking about Rogue One, first and foremost. But since it's our Christmas show, I have a special guest, and I've recorded the interview. I recorded the interview just yesterday, so it's in the can, as they say. But I have a really good interview with Rick Goldschmidt, who is the official Rankin and Bass historian. He wrote several books on the Rankin and Bass studios, and Rankin and Bass, of course, made Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and all those great animagic stop-motion Christmas specials that you still see to this day rerun, usually on ABC Family. So it's really, really, it was really fun talking to him. And he is the official historian of the Rankin Bass Studios, and his book is great. So look for that. It's probably going to be out the week of Christmas, the next new MegaPodzilla with Rick Goldschmidt. And we'll also be talking Rogue One. So till then, keep on wearing those pajamas.